It is exactly 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock in the morning, and this isn't necessarily a podcast, but
No.
it is us getting together, and we have the distinct opportunity of having Megan Stockton here. Megan, and what is your role with Bonterra?
Good morning. I am the key account manager for North and Central Florida for Republic National Distributing Company for Vina Concha y Toro, and Bonterra is our best brand, our domestic brand
Right.
that we absolutely love and
Yeah.
is our main focus right now.
Okay.
So, great wines.
Awesome. And we have?
And we have John Kane
John?
here, and he is the General Manager, Vice President of Operations and Winemaking.
Correct.
For all of Bonterra for the United States.
Awesome.
So,
Well, we are absolutely honored to have you here, and we're looking forward to drinking some wine at 9 in the morning.
Well, you know, they say your palate is best early in the day. So let's check it out.
Oh, who says this?
Yeah, right. They.
Who's they?
They. Just they.
The royal we.
Yeah,
Experts.
experts.
Experts say.
So I guess we have, well, first of all, we like to start every podcast by drinking wine.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Sure.
So do you want to start with the Sauv Blanc, you think?
Sure.
Would you-
Why don't we start with
Can
the
you
Pinot
tell us-
Gris?
yeah.
Pinot
Okay.
Gris? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
And while we're doing it, tell us a little bit about Bonterra.
that's
So
the one.
Bonterra is a brand that was started by the Fetzer family back in the 80s. Making or made with organic grapes. So it's not organic wine per se, but definitely was really about the farming process. Really just trying to take care of the land, the soil. Making sure that we're not damaging the future generations. Definitely pioneers in the segment. There was a lot of confusion around organic wine and made with organic grapes and everything. So about 30 years later, I think people finally got it and understand that there's SO2 in there. That's why it's not organic wine. But at the end of the day, if you don't use SO2 in winemaking, the wines fall apart real quick. Grapes want to go to vinegar just like milk wants to go to yogurt, right? But we try to stop it in the middle
Right.
with SO2 and then give it a different life. So that's kind of where Bonterra
And
has
is
been.
that the only thing that makes it the wine not organic? It's just the
It's
SO2?
just the SO2.
So, but the growing is.
It's 100% organic,
Okay.
grape growing, 100% organic in the winery. Everything we do, there's just a lot of things you can't use that you can use when you're doing non-organic style.
Okay.
So this is our Pinot Gris.
Okay.
This is our first year we've ever done a Pinot Gris for Bonterra. And again, so Pinot Gris is essentially a red grape, right? That everyone wants to drink white and not pink or blush style.
Okay.
So when you're making it in a conventional style, you have tools that you can take the color out with. So for us, all we have the tool is carbon, essentially charcoal that we can pull a little bit of the color
wow.
out. But what we do is we essentially, when it goes to press, we take all the free run and set that aside, and then we just try to treat the press part where all most of the color is. But you're not going to see a lot of Pinot Gris in the made with organic segment just because of the color of the wine.
Sure.
Huh. I did not know that.
That is
Pinot
crisp
Gris
and
is-
clean. That's
it
really
is.
nice.
Yeah, it's
Definitely.
fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great, easy drinking, 9 o'clock
Easy.
in the morning wine right there.
Yeah, that's a 9 a.m. drink.
So why go to Pinot Gris if you've never done it before?
At
At least for Bonterra.
it's definitely popular, but there wasn't a lot of organic vineyards that were producing Pinot Gris.
Okay.
So essentially, we buy these grapes, we don't grow them ourselves.
Okay.
There was actually a couple growers that we came on to, and they said, "Hey, we have this organic," so we're like, "Let's give it a shot." And then actually, there was a winemaking team was a little him and han about it. I don't want to deal with all the
Sure.
color, this and that. But at the end of the day, it worked out, and it turned out to be a beautiful wine.
Absolutely.
So year 1, 7,000 cases. Year 2, 35,000.
Okay.
Wow.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're going to punch it up a little
Good,
bit harder.
good.
So,
All right.
and it was just because for a grape grower to become organic, it's a 3-year process. They have to show that they didn't spray for 3 years, and they get the CCOF involved and go through it. And a couple of the other growers came on board, and they already started the process. So it's pretty interesting. I would say maybe 10 years ago, there was probably close to 10,000 acres farmed organically. I'd say we're almost close to 30,000 now in California alone.
Wow. Nice.
But yeah, nice acid, really fresh, crisp grape. You'll see this pretty much across the line of Bonterra. We definitely love acid. We love that kind of, that mouth-watering sensation that you get from the wines. We're not really heavy on the alcohol. It's just really kind of true classic style of the winemaking that we really kind of like for the wines at the price point hold up really well.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, good luck with the new
Yeah.
bottling.
Yeah. Well, it's
I mean, you're not punching it up to 33,000 cases if you don't think you can sell it.
no, and that's to be honest, we're going to start bottling in November. So we just fermented the grapes last month. We're getting them ready, getting bottle ready, clarifying everything, and we'll probably be launching it right about Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, it makes me think. There's a lot going on in California right now, and you're out here messing around with us on a podcast.
Yeah. Well, the winemaking team's like, go, get out of here. We're
Okay.
doing what we got to do.
All right.
But no, it's this is probably the first year in my 25 years I'm not physically making wine with the
Okay.
team. I kind of, as the GM, I kind of oversee them more.
Right.
But it's given me an opportunity to come out and
Yeah.
see the market and see how people are doing. But and then kind of teach
Sure.
people about the wines.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Where
All right,
to
now
next?
Sauv Blanc, or do you want to go?
Yeah, let's try the Sauvignon Blanc.
All right.
So this is our estate collection. This is the 2023, and again, we've always taken a little bit of the Sauvignon Blanc we had on our estate vineyards and blended into our California tier. So this is the first bottling of the 2023 estate Sauvignon Blanc.
So can you explain the difference between, so you have the Bonterra, now you have an estate? Just,
Correct. So essentially, we farm 1,000 acres in Mendocino, and about I think we own about 700 of it, and we lease about 300. But we always had a gap in the portfolio, so we had the California label where we would blend down things that weren't going into the single vineyards.
okay,
So a couple years ago, we came out with a cab and a shard of the estate collection.
okay,
And then we're really just trying to showcase Mendocino and all the farming that we're doing up in Mendocino
Okay.
organically. So, like I said, we started with the cab and the shard, and then last year we had a little bit of, Sauv Blanc. We said, you know what, let's put this in the estate and kind of push this that direction and just really showcase Mendocino Sauv Blanc, which was really amazing because, we're really in an interesting part of Mendocino where it could be 50 degrees in the morning and be 105 in the afternoon.
Okay.
So you get these big diurnal shifts out there in Mendocino. So that's another reason why we tend to pick a little bit on the lighter side, lower alcohol side, because we want more citrus than we do that tropical melon kind of overripe style. And that's what
Well,
we
I-
really see here.
And you get that citrus when you pick
but
a
I
little
still
earlier?
think
Right.
you get
Okay.
that melon and that tropicalness in this.
It's a little mix of the New Zealand with
It
California.
is.
Yes.
It is.
Which I like. I'm tasting Sauv Blancs from California that seem like they just want to be so different than the New Zealand's.
Right,
And
right.
not that this is just like it, but it's got some of that stone and crispiness that
Definitely.
you get.
Did you say stone?
Some of that minerality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Minerality.
Okay, all right.
Searching for words at 9:05. Yeah. That's fantastic.
No, I mean that.
And this is all estate grown.
That's 100% estate,
Right.
right across the street from the winery. Travels about 50 feet from the truck
Wow.
to the press.
And so now, where is Mendocino in relation to Sonoma?
So essentially, you got to drive through Sonoma to get to Mendocino. So we're
Okay.
about 2 hours north of San Francisco, and then we're due west of Lake County and Napa. So if you look at it as 4 blocks, there's Sonoma, there's Napa, there's Mendocino, there's Lake County.
Okay.
And that's essentially the North Coast grape growing region
Okay.
up north. So we're probably 20 miles away from the Pacific Ocean as a crow flies, but there's a couple good-sized mountain ranges that where the fog kind of comes in and kisses us,
Okay.
but really doesn't soak us in.
Okay.
And so Alexander Valley is just due west of where the winery is, where you have more Pinot, cold climate grape growing region. So that fog gives us more winds and cools us off, but it doesn't give us a lot of fog like
Okay.
Anderson Valley.
Wow. All right.
We're dumping right here.
Yeah, I'm dumping right there. And it's really a shame. I mean, there's something we typically don't
We
do.
do have work to do.
We do. I'm just going to say maybe we just change out your glass. Looks like this might not be particularly clean. Yeah.
It's got some
Got some
bubbles.
extra.
The sides didn't come.
Yeah. All right. What are we going to next?
We'll
then?
try the roost.
Yeah.
So now we're in a single vineyard. We call it the Roost because along the Russian River, which most of the white grapes are planted across the street from the winery, there's a lot of oak trees, and the blue herons roost inside those oak trees. So that's why we call it the Roost, and the vineyard actually is called the Blue Heron. This wine,
How big's the vineyard?
So this is a continuous vineyard. It's probably close to 240 acres, but the block that we get this out of is about 4 acres.
Okay.
And essentially, when the Fetzers planted a lot of vineyards back in the day, they definitely messed a lot with row orientation. So you can plant with the sun, and you get really kind of super ripe fruit, or you plant against the sun, and you only get like morning side and evening side. So essentially, you leave the leaves on the evening side, and you take them off on the morning side to get a little bit slower ripening process. So they planted this one in like a chevron. So you got some good morning stuff, you got some perpendicular, some parallel, and then some running across it. And essentially this wine we do hand harvest, we do whole cluster pressing. We essentially split the juice press, so we take the free run versus the press run, and then we barrel ferment for, for about a month, and then we age in those lees.
You ferment those separately?
Exactly.
The free run?
Exactly. The free run, the press run goes to the Bonterra core. And then we essentially ferment, and then we never take the wine out of the barrel. We store the lees. It ages about 6 to 8 months on those lees, and the only time we take the wine out of the barrel is when we get it ready to bottle.
And lees are
Essentially
for
the
everybody?
solids.
It's
Yeah.
the solids.
Yeah. So lees, the solids of the fermentation. So it's the yeast cells, some of the grape matter that's solids, I guess we call them. But essentially, there's a lot of mouthfeel in those yeast cells when they break open, when they die. You stir those up, and it's a lot of proteins that kind of fattens up the mouth. But again, so we pick a little bit less ripe. We pick these about 22, 23% sugar, which will give you about a 13.2% alcohol.
The science that goes into winemaking is incredible.
It really
Well, I have to
is.
tell you, this is really good. And this is the one that you tasted Eddie on? Or-
We tasted with Eddie and Kara. It's a potential for the wine
Right.
club. Maybe not for this particular one.
Yeah.
Maybe one in the future.
Okay.
So.
yeah, that's nice.
It's my favorite Chardonnay.
Is it?
It is. Yeah. I'm looking at
Yeah, it's kind of, it's
this
always
for a while.
interesting where, the Chardonnays kind of fluctuate, right? They go sweet, over oaked, and they come back, and then they go back and forth. For us, oak to us is like children, right? They should be seen, not heard. We want the oak to support the wine, not
So is
be the
this
wine.
new oak?
It's about 50% new, 50% neutral. But essentially, one of the techniques we do is when we take it out of barrel to get it ready for bottling, we actually let it sit in the tank for another couple months to kind of let the oak come back and integrate in the wine. We really truly want that wine to, we want a little bit of the oak in the mouth and the profile, and we want it in the nose, but we really want more of that citrus kind of melon up in the front of the
Well, I
nose.
think you nailed it. You don't
Right.
get that big butter bomb.
Right.
So it's in there in the background, but
Definitely.
the fruit is and the citrus is first.
No, that's nice.
Yes, I feel like this is so approachable to people that are a fan of the butter, but also people that aren't. So
Yep.
this is one of those Chardonnays. When I do it at a wine dinner, I always have people that say, "Oh, I don't drink Chardonnay. I don't like it," and they taste this and they're like,
Yeah.
"Maybe I do like Chardonnay." So.
And for the restaurant, I typically will pair, a big-bodied, creamy chard with a creamy kind of dish of some kind.
Right.
And I would pair this with maybe a grilled dish, even, and lighten the dish a little bit. It's just a little bit of a lighter chard. I like it.
Definitely.
I'm not gonna dump it.
Oh, I think you're getting warmed up. I think maybe the first one was the soap.
Maybe I should have had breakfast or something. Protein bar.
So the next we're going to do is our estate collection, 22 Cabernet Sauvignon. So essentially, if we plant all the whites next to the Russian River, which is across the street from the winery, we tend to plant most of the reds on the hills and the mountainsides that are facing west, so they get the afternoon sun for ripeness. So on the backside of the winery and kind of up and down what's called River Road, where the winery is based, most of the reds are planted there. Grenache, we have some Zin,
Okay.
Petit Syrah, but a lot of Cab that's planted around the winery. And then we own a couple ranches. When we get to the single vineyard, I'll kind of tell you more about that. But specifically, there's some Cabernet planted at the Butler Ranch, which is essentially, we'll get into 2 wines, but so essentially our McNabb, the next one we'll taste is a pocket canyon, and it faces east. So it essentially gets a lot of morning sun, and then it gets not a lot of afternoon sun because of the mountain range. So the sun sets on that vineyard right about at 5 o'clock. Above that pocket canyon, there's a hilltop called the Butler Ranch, and the Butler Ranch sits about 2,200 feet elevation. And so when the fog does come in, the Butler Ranch stays in the sun, and then the McNabb sits in a little bit of a pocket.
Is it above the fog line?
Yeah,
Is that why?
definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
And
So,
it continues getting that heat.
Okay.
so the Butler Ranch is a Rhone ranch, so Syrah, Grenache, Zinfandel, Petit Syrah,
Okay.
this and that. But we planted some cab up on the tops, and essentially there's 3 blocks that we put in the estate cab that really just highlights that kind of red fruit and really kind of riper style. And then most of the cab plan around the winery, we pick a little bit. It's going to be a more spicier tobacco style.
And that's what I'm getting all of that in this.
So will you blend that top of mountain fruit with the lower fruit
Yeah,
at the end?
for the estate
Okay.
collection, yes. Yeah, and and Mendocino's famously known for Zinfandel and Rose, right? Syrahs and this and that. And that's what we're kind of showcasing a little bit here in this cab. We want it to be soft and easy approachable, but have that red fruit that's kind of identified with Mendocino.
But it's got some body on the back end. It's got some
Mm-hmm.
tannins. You can definitely feel it, but not overbearing.
Definitely.
And definitely getting the fruit out of it.
Yeah, and
Fantastic.
we have a lot of interesting, we were talking to AI earlier, but, we're slowly going through automation in the winery where we can do things to help the wines accelerate and improve in aging and this and that. And a pump over during the fermentation process is the single most important thing you can do with red grapes. So we automated the pump over process. Before, we had humans doing it, and I love humans, but humans are different.
Punching
Every
down.
human's different, yeah. So, we were probably averaging maybe 2 times a day a pump over on a tank, but when we automated it and give its automatic process, I can do 6 pump overs, I can do 8 pump overs.
Wow.
And the winemaking style just, accelerated in quality. Everything was more consistently coming out of the winery because we took the human
Sure.
side of it.
Can
know?
you pump over too much? As a novice,
If-
you wouldn't want to run it continuously.
Like a
would
Napa
you?
cab, you could, right? So Mendocino, being it's hotter, is going to have less tannin. So we're trying to get more tannin out of the skin.
Okay.
Compared to a Napa cab, where you're like, there's plenty of tannin. Let's just pump it over a few times.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's really kind
So
of
the more you pump it over those skins, the more tannin you're
the
gonna
more you're
pull out.
extracting. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Well, I think this is the perfect amount.
Yeah, it's so the mountain fruit that we get out of Butler, we probably pump over about 2 to 3 times a day. But the stuff on the valley floor, we go about 4 to 5 times a day.
Okay.
Okay.
That's interesting.
So the last but not least is our McNabb. This is a single vineyard that we do up in Mendocino. Essentially, this is the 2020 vintage, and what I was talking about, that pocket canyon, this was, back in the 1800s, was an old sheep ranch, and essentially that's why we call it the McNabb, because one of the breeds of the dog was developed on that ranch by the McNabb family, and that's kind of where that comes out of. So about 22% Petite Syrah, and then 78% Cab on this one. We definitely like to use Petite Syrah Mendocino for blending.
And about 1% sheep
Yeah.
dung.
It gets worked into the soil. That's kind of where we like it to be. But like I was saying earlier, McNabb Ranch was a pocket ranch that kind of sits in a little valley. Was going to be a golf course back in the early 80s, but the Jimmy Fetzer actually bought it and turned it into a vineyard.
I made a mess over here.
That's all right. So the McNabb Ranch is essentially where biodynamic farming kind of really kicked off in Mendocino with Alan York. And the Fetzer family, he actually lived on property, and they kind of really just talked about how they're going to develop these properties that, you don't have to use sprays. And so essentially, between all the Cabernet blocks and some of the Petite Syrah blocks we have there in the Merlot, they plant like these inversion rows, and essentially it's a lot of plants and trees that bring in the insects and everything that's going to be biodynamic.
And they'll let sheep or goats kind of go in between the rows, right? And
We do.
eat- yeah.
We run sheep on all the properties, essentially from when harvest is over all the way till bud break. We run sheep, and it's by a third-party rancher who comes in, so he gets free food, we get free lawnmowers.
There you go.
And then they actually
Okay.
till the soil with their hooves, and they fertilize too.
Okay.
But essentially, the sheep will take it down to the dirt. So essentially, they have to rotate them every 5 days. So they get it down about an inch, and then they put them in a trailer and haul them to the next ranch, and they just keep rotating the ranches all winter long. And it's really interesting
So
how
free food for the sheep.
Yeah,
and free lawnmowers, like you said.
definitely. Yeah, the lawnmowers come out, and it's pretty
Is there a
interesting.
point where they will eat the vines?
Yeah,
or
as
the
soon as
grapes?
bud break comes out, we
So
move
then
them.
you gotta
yeah,
get
we
them
have to
out.
move them
Okay,
off.
I see.
Yeah, and then we actually take them around the winery and do fire control. So they come around and eat all the weeds around the winery.
That's so
Yeah,
cool.
is biodynamic kind of the pinnacle of that kind of growing?
It's biodynamic is like what organic was 30 years ago. There was a lot of different ways to look at it.
Sure.
You gotta pick at the certain moon and ride the tractor
Sure.
naked and
Bury
everything.
bury a cow horn
Who knows how it
Oh,
goes?
yeah.
on the equinox. Sure.
There's a lot of I think the overall gist of it is spraying diesel-based chemicals is not really good for anyone in this world. And the second part is that you have to put more in the soil than you take out of it to keep it healthy for a long time of its life. So one thing I didn't touch on is these two estate vineyards are considered ROC. It's Regenerative Organic Alliance, and their certification. So essentially what they're more about is the soil health. So we do soil tests to understand the health of the soil, the microbes, the nitrogens and the carbon and stuff like that. So we don't farm biodynamically anymore. We farm ROC certification. Essentially, it's a step up from CCOF, essentially, because they come and actually interview the workers at the winery and the vineyards and this and that. And they ask them, do you get breaks? Do you get overtime? So essentially, we always have a bad joke. You can be an organic farmer and be a real jerk, right, to your people, right? So this ROC certification actually comes in and just talks to the people and makes sure that we're actually treating everyone fair, the workers, the animals, everything how it works out. We were already doing almost everything they asked us to do, except we just never, we've been audited before because we're B Corp certification. So our employees have been interviewed by third parties to ask about the work conditions and everything like that. This is just another third party certifier helping us out with that. But essentially, so now we farm everything 1,000 acres as ROC certification.
Okay.
Man, I wonder
That's
if we're
fine.
ROC certified as an employer.
I think we take care of our people.
Yeah,
And
I
they
think
take
so.
care of us, yeah.
Yeah, we rock.
Yeah. We do
We
rock.
rock, we
We're
rock.
gonna have to put that out there.
Yeah, we rock.
Yeah.
Listen-
This cab is also fantastic.
No,
and
yeah.
a little more subtle to
Definitely.
me than the first one, where
But-
the first one is that big fruit bang right up front, and this one's just a little more.
But I'm also getting depth of, you almost get a little bit of tobacco and just a little more depth of flavor, more
Yeah.
complexity.
Definitely,
That's a
definitely.
good word. That's what I was looking for.
So the estate collection was more, kind of positioning in that $10 to $20 range or 25. Just kind of maybe a by the glass or really just kind of hitting. And we wanted a little bit fresher style. So the McNabb's at 2020, the other cab is at 2022.
Okay.
But essentially, the McNabb goes 100% barrel aging. We do about 12 months aging on it. Mendocino wines do well with oak, but the shorter time.
Sure.
Typical Napa cab will go 18, 24 months. The
Right.
Mendocino wines really kind of fall off right about 12 months for us. So we start tasting pretty heavily about 8 months and just kind of see where we want to sweet spot it. And again, then we pull the wine out, we set it in tank, and we let it sit for about 2 months to
Okay.
let the oak kind of integrate back into the wine. Petit Syrah does that too. It kind of softens the wine a little bit and kind of pulls back the tannins for us. But it's the McNabb Ranch it's a real pain, to be honest. We pick this ranch like every November, so it sees a couple rainstorms.
Wow.
It's
That
slow
late?
to ripen.
Yeah.
It's a real slow ripener. So we get a lot of that hang time, and you get a lot of that concentration without the high alcohol.
Okay.
So it could be a real pain in the neck, man, because it's like the last one out there, and you're always kind of tasting it, and the green pyrazines and stuff go away, but it's just the tannins are still too harsh, and then November comes around, and the winery's like, we're done, we want to be over with harvest, let's go pick it, and
Right.
but it's one of those vineyards where you kind of just got to give it its time to get
So
it out.
you're out there pulling grapes, tasting them. This is ready, tannins.
Or
skin.
someone is.
Somebody is.
Yeah.
And
100%. All picks are called by winemakers. Generally, we verify the taste in the vineyard. This one we pick by block. So there's 13 blocks in that vineyard, and we selectively go and start picking through by different blocks. So the blocks that are less in the canyon, that are more closer to the road, generally go first, and then we kind of work our way back into that canyon because that's where the less ripeness is.
and is each block vinified separately?
They are.
Wow.
They are.
And then all blended at the end.
Yeah.
Now, how is 2024 as far as a growing year? And last September we spent a month out in Napa, and everyone kept saying, "Man, it's late, it's late." They had interns ready to work,
Yes.
and nobody had work. They were waiting for it to ripen, and it just it wasn't ripe. It wasn't ripening as it had in the past.
Definitely. It was a cooler summer.
Yeah.
So we start 2023. We started August 4th with Pinot Gris,
Okay.
and we finished receiving grapes at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So this harvest we started on August 4th with Pinot Gris, and we're probably going to be done. We penciled it out. We're probably going to be done right about October 20th.
That's awesome.
So we're finishing a month earlier
Okay. Wow.
with the same amount of fruit.
Right.
So essentially, we had a heat spell that came across California, really sat across the Central Valley pocket for, I think, 34 days or 36 days, it was like over 105 from Sacramento to Bakersfield every day. Like so we were seeing some of that bleed over to us. So kind of what we see more on the North Coast, we'll see like 5 or 7 days of heat, and then the marine layer comes in, right? Because that's what creates the marine layer is that heat. And then 3 days later, that marine layer pulls back and it gets back up to 105. So it's actually been an amazing season because when you get that, you get a little bit of ripening and it cools off, and it's like the vines get a break.
Right.
And then it heats up again, and you get a little more ripening, and then it cools off and they get a break. So we probably saw like 5 or 7 of those kind of in a longer spurt. So we got some good ripeness and cool off, ripeness and cool off. So it's actually shaping up to be really nice. We're loving the color. Berry size is smaller, so you get better concentration, juice to skin ratio, which is always cool. It's interesting how you always get an amazing harvest when, like wine drinking isn't at its all-time premium. We're high at the moment, and you get these amazing vintages, which I think will hopefully accelerate people's interest in wine.
It's funny you mentioned that. Why do you think, especially in our end of the business, that wine drinking is maybe leveling off or at a little bit of a low?
I don't know if it is for our
Certainly
particular
not for us,
customers.
and
Certainly not for me.
Right.
But I'm
For me.
seeing that in the trade magazines, and
Definitely.
certainly you guys, if anybody's feeling it, it's the winemakers.
Yeah, it's, everyone has their own reason.
Because it goes
why.
like this.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone's like, oh, the millennials aren't drinking wine. I'm like, well, I didn't really drink wine until I was 28, 30.
either.
Exactly.
I
And we
couldn't
mentioned
afford
that.
it. So I think, we're still seeing the dip from the pandemic, right? I mean, people went like super high.
Sure.
And then they went super low. And I think it's starting to level out. And if you take the last 4 years out of the data, it's going
That's
the same
okay.
across, So as Bonterra, and, I think people consciously, health-wise, are trying to find better things for them.
Right.
We're beating the market. The market's probably off, whatever, 5-10%. We're flat, so we feel like we're beating what we're seeing out there in the market.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Flat is the new up.
Yeah.
Right.
It is
true.
right now.
We'll take
It
it.
is.
We'll take it.
Yes.
Right.
But I think it's just it's in. I drove by the gas station being from California. You guys are at $3. We're at $5.50.
Yeah.
Right. So if you got a $100,000 Suburban and you're paying $5.50 a gallon of gas, and interest rates are at 6%. I think you're going to start figuring out what is a necessity.
Now listen,
what is a
don't let us go.
Move out of the state.
Don't let us get into California.
Yeah. So,
California politics.
but actually, your guys' region is probably our best region in the U.S.
Okay.
Is the Southeast.
Wow.
Is doing really well.
Well, it's all because Megan.
I know. I like it. Perfect.
This area, at least.
So Megan, you've partnered with SoNapa for how long?
Oh, gosh.
For a long time.
Very long time.
But you know what, shame on, I really haven't taken time to sit down with you and drink these wines, and I'm so glad that we finally have.
Oh, sure.
They're
And wine club members, keep an eye
Yeah.
out. You might see a couple.
some
Right.
organically
Some of
grown grapes.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a great lineup. Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely fantastic.
I know that you're on your way to Orlando today, right? Or is that what you're doing?
Yes, we are starting out over here, and then we're going to wind up in Orlando. We're seeing a couple of hotels, and
Yeah.
one of my good partners out there. So
I-4 is one of my
Fun.
favorite drives of
Oh,
all
yeah.
time.
I do love the express
Absolutely
lanes.
love
It
it.
makes it a lot better.
Yes.
So,
Well, it makes it a lot better after you've.
well,
How to
this
taste it.
is
Yes.
I have a little.
No, I see a
taste,
big
and
cup
that's
glass.
it,
over
yeah.
Oh,
there. So,
But
No, we've
Absolute
got
pleasure.
a not quite a wine dinner tonight, and it's something kind of cool we're doing. We call it the Judgment of SoNapa,
Nice.
Sonoma, Napa, and Paso.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
so we've got 15 wines we're going to be drinking tonight,
yeah.
and then our
And
guests
tomorrow
are
night.
going to pick out what they like the best,
Kind of a
whether
fun,
it's Sonoma,
interactive,
Napa, or
food and
Paso.
wine pairing,
Kind of
so.
our take on the Judgment of Paris.
sure.
There you go. Fantastic.
Yeah, but this was a great way to start the day. Breakfast
and thank
of
you again.
Champions.
Yeah.
But yes,
Safe
thank
travels.
you for
No
being
problem.
here.
Yes.
Thanks
This
for
was-
having us.
This was
Much
so-
appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely amazing.
Megan, we
Megan,
love you.
I love you. Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you guys.
No problem.
That's awesome.